and what a lovely morning. Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
And it's a good morning from Power Talks with Beth Ann and Melody Cedarstrom in the morning, where talk is real, truth is in the talk, and there is power in truth. And we welcome you and we say good morning. Good morning, Melody.
Good morning to you and good morning to the listeners.
Absolutely. Melody took a day off yesterday. She had a meeting to attend. That's the story I got. So she's back with us today. We're glad
I did have a meeting, and you will miss me once a month because I have that meeting every month. So, but
I'm going to join a club, so I have a meeting every once in a while.
But yes, it was
we're just teasing you.
Yes, the big news today. There's all kinds of things, but I wanted to share something that I thought was really a cute story, if we're going to start out with cute. And I know there's a lot of the listeners out there. It's like, well, you know what? Just get to the meat of the stories. We want to hear more than just cute stuff.
Who said that? I want names. I want phone numbers.
But we're girls, so we have to have some cute, and hopefully I can find this cute so I can share
there's so much ugly. We got to have something.
We got to have something. And what it was is this gal, I don't know what grade she was in, probably junior high, and she was in a wrestling tournament. And her little brother was out in the audience with the parents, and he came running in because he thought she was in trouble. And he comes running in to save her. The toddler mistakes his sister's wrestling match for a real fight. And he goes in. He's only 2 years old, and I guess the match was at an elementary school in Indiana on Sunday, and he just thought it was his sister was in a real fight, and a 2-year-old ran in there, and the kid grabbed his sister's adversary and tried to drag him away before the referee broke up the impromptu intrusion. And so I thought it was cute. The whole place cracked up when it happened, and so...
that is cute.
Yeah.
Sibling love.
And we were talking about
I
bullying
can beat you up, but
earlier
nobody else can.
And we were talking about bullying this week, so he was going to have no part of it, a 2-year-old.
He's been raised correctly.
Yeah.
He has the chivalry of the male, and he goes in there to save his sister. That's just pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How old is his sister that she's in a wrestling match?
Well, older than him.
Well, they do start that young. I mean, they start those
now they do
pretty young. They were trying to get my grandson. He if you let him, he's the opposite of his sister. She wants to be in everything, and she will overcommit herself. And he's fine just to stay home. He's just 7, but he's fine just to stay home, play on his laptop or his iPad or play toys or whatever. And so they're trying to get him to do at least one thing, you know. And so they were testing out Taekwondo, but the one that they were checking out was a little bit over the top, so they didn't want to try that. They're going to start on a lower level. So he was a little overwhelmed by it. But it had everyone in the same group, every level of Taekwondo, and he was just there for the first time. So he's a good kid, but he's content, which is not bad. It's not bad.
It's not a bad thing to be content.
Not a bad thing to be content.
Well, now to get into some gritty some things, you know, with the tax reform, we hear all about how great things are. This is our big Christmas present before Christmas. Well, they need to get it approved before the 22nd because that's when they go into holiday, with the 22nd being on Friday and Christmas is on Monday. So they basically have today, tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So basically they have 6 days, 7 days, excuse me, to get this done because on the 22nd, they only extended the spending bill to the 22nd. So that it isn't about getting this done for the people of, you know, they just color it up. Oh, we're going to get this done so you have a great Christmas present. Well, you know, they got to get it done before the 22nd because then they're going to have to deal with the spending bill. So, you know, just tell us the truth. Don't color code it for us. But what you hear is, you know, because of the stock market, and all politicians, just not one or two, but all of them, they try to convince you that the U.S. economy is just is showing a stellar performance. And there's nothing to worry about. And, of course, they don't want you to worry right before Christmas either. They want you out there shopping and spending. But, you know, I came across, and these are some things that shows us that things are not that good in this economy. And I don't believe in trickle-down economics. They can have a knee-jerk reaction, but eventually they'll add billions and billions and trillions of dollars to our deficit. And just like Ronald Reagan, it was all great, fine, and dandy, but he increased our deficit by 120-130%. So, but here's just a couple of things, Beth. Food stamps.
Okay.
You know, if the economy is so good, why are so many people still using food stamps? As of December 8th, there are still 42.16 million Americans using food stamps. In 2007, only, which is still a huge number, 26.31 million Americans were using food stamps.
Let me ask a question. Does it have what it was a year or 2 years ago? Because they've been telling us that is going down.
It's going down, but it's a staggering number.
Okay.
It's like saying you're in debt $1 million and you decreased it by 20,000. It's still staggering. So so 42 million Americans, that's a lot of people.
You know, in our little community in Columbia yesterday, and in Jeff City, they were having a food drive for the food banks and they were taking money and food. And they brought in quite a little bit, you know. People do like to give, but it's, you know, that we have to, and I guess, you know, the scripture tells us the poor will always be with you, but it seems like we have way too many that are poor and way too many that can't afford food. And, of course, we do know that there are some that take advantage of that as well, but it's, there were a couple of, I'm just going to go out there on this limb and then you can get back to your story. There was 2 states that were making them work for their welfare, work for their food stamps, and that has cut back. And I believe one was Maine, and I can't remember the other one. And they noticed a drastic drop in that, and people were feeling good about themselves because they did find some work for them. To work for those, to earn their welfare, earn their food stamps, and that goes to show you the human nature. We do want to be able to say we did it. You know that we can do something. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead with your story.
We do need jobs. We do need to be able to take care of ourselves. And
yes.
But the food stamp usage in the U.S. economy is up 60% over the past decade. Wow. Sure, that might have come down, maybe 65% it was, and now it's 60. It's still a huge number compared to the continual praising of our economy and how great things are. The stock market's meeting record highs, like everything is great, jobs, and our unemployment is low. Then why are we still carrying a 60% increase in food stamps over the past decade? That's more the entire population of Canada. So to brag about how great our economy is when we still have 42 million people on food stamps, I say there's a problem. I talked about this last week. Homelessness is increasing in 2017. According to a recent report from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the number of homeless individuals in the United States amounted to 553,742 in 2017. That was a 0.7% increase over 2016. So again, it doesn't seem like a big increase, but when you have a good economy, you shouldn't have any increase. On a single night, there were 58,000 families with children that experienced homelessness in the U.S. in 2017. Long-term homelessness among individual Americans soared 12.2% between 2016 and 2017. So long-term homelessness among individuals, that increased 12.2%. So again, Why are we having 58,000 families with children that are homeless in this country when the economy is so great? And you'll hear some politicians, even Trump, saying that we can get things a little bit better than what it is and so forth. But it doesn't reflect what we hear as far as the stock market and everything else, all the other numbers that come out from the Federal Reserve and other financial news programs. Over 5 million homeowners have negative equity. If you look at the number of Americans living in homes with negative equity in the first quarter of 2017, a little more than 5 million American homeowners lived in a house where the value of the home was less than the mortgage amount. For the majority of the homeowners with negative equity, they are underwater by at least 20%. So you must keep in mind a home is something that's seen as an asset. For over 5 million Americans, it's a liability. They can't sell their houses. If they do, they're going to be owing money to their mortgage provider. You know, we talk about you hear stories about the real estate that there's no houses that are coming onto the market. Well, you know what? Maybe this is part of the reason, because people are upside down in their mortgages. Number one, because they couldn't afford the 20% down to get into the home. So again, we're having the same kind of problems, the same kind of debt problems. The debt problems aren't going away. The debt problems won't go away because we live in a fiat system, and so they can't and they won't go away. When you have 70% of the consumers that's needed to keep this economy going, they're thrown at everything possible to keep them into debt, to go deeper into debt, and there's no way they can get themselves out of their debt when they pay their minimum, payments on their, checking accounts. So, these are all signs of a recession. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how much trickle down from the tax reform we might get. These are bigger signs that I think the recession is going to come first. I think what we've seen with the trickle down with the tax reform, I think we've seen the advantages. I don't know how much higher these markets can go, but I think the positive from the tax reform we've already seen, and that's the anticipation. What happens afterwards, I don't know, but I don't think that we're going to see much change from some of these numbers that I just talked about. So, again, folks, everything might seem all rosy. We're told that it's rosy. If you say if it walks like it, what's that old saying? If it looks like a duck, it must be a duck, or if it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck.
If it walks like a duck, waddles like a duck.
If it waddles like a duck. So, they can keep telling us that we have a great economy, but I really don't think that we do. And,
well, you just burst in my bubble, because I watched a senator last night. I cannot remember her name. She is one that I kind of like, and she was just all giddy. She was just all giddy. She goes, well, we got a few things yet we've got to do and get passed on it, but she's just all giddy about how great it's going to be, and people are going to notice it right away. Right away in January, you're going to notice it.
They're going to notice it right away. They're going to notice it right.
Everybody's going to be filthy rich. No, she didn't say that. She was very giddy. She was very excited about it, and so I don't know. It's we know that the stock market going up is just it's based on really nothing other than everybody's got a better outlook on life, maybe a little bit, anticipating things to get better. But we'll just, we're riding this sucker out one more time, aren't we?
Yeah, we truly are. And, debt is a growing problem, and we are going to have a financial crisis. And, he signed a $700 billion defense bill. Talks of $1 trillion infrastructure spending next year. Tax reform. How and who's going to pay for it?
Well, taxpayers. That's who pays for it. We're going into a break. I hear the music. Your calls are welcome at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. Melody and Beth Ann will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Have you seen the Left Behind movies? Have you read the Left Behind fictional book series? Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. Because they see the world stage shaping to fulfill what they have been led to believe is sound biblical interpretation, a left behind rapture scenario. This false view of prophecy is reinforced in the mind, not only of its adherents, but also includes those who have been merely exposed to the specific media. Is it possible that false prophecy can be fulfilled? The rapture theories have always been in dispute. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib disputes have risen up in exclusively evangelical circles of recent history, so that when true believers don't suddenly disappear, this element will easily go by the wayside when all see a new Jewish temple begin to be built. Will this be part of the great delusion that will come upon the whole earth? It seems that this great prophetic delusion has already overcome practically the entire American evangelical and Christian world. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. To learn more, visit crosstheborder.org. That's CROSS, crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the Good Morning. And we are here with you today. And the number to call is 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. Melody and I have been talking, and we want to have a special show on Friday the 22nd, December the 22nd. I want you to put your thinking caps on, and we want you to call in. Keep it short so we can get as many as possible, and give your favorite Christmas memory or the most memorable Christmas or favorite Christmas gift that you received or that you gave, whichever way you want to perceive that on December 22nd. We want to hear from you, and we wish you all a Merry Christmas. I know everybody's busy these days, and so give us a call on that day, and we're going to have a special show that day. And Melody and Beth Ann will share, too. Won't we, Melody?
Canned jellied cranberry sauce.
That's your favorite Christmas gift?
Thanksgiving, Christmas, you.
All right, I'm going to have to get her a can of cranberries. Wrap it up in a bow. Oh, I don't know about you.
Yeah.
All right.
So we want to hear from you, listeners. Come on, we know you're there. And
yeah, well,
don't be shy.
December 22nd. Yeah, December 22nd. Call in and tell us what your favorite Christmas memory is.
You have a whole week, a little more than a week to think about it. Don't be shy. And,
Keep
share
it short
something
and sweet
with us.
so we can get as many in as possible.
Yeah, and share something with us. Share something with the other listeners. Because listeners, it always amazes me is because after I do programs and so forth, people will call with questions. It's like, that's a great question. You should have called in on the program. Because your question, because everybody has those same questions. Mm-hmm. So
we have a caller.
Yes, we do.
We have a caller I want to go to. We want to go to Bill from Arizona. Bill, how are you today?
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning,
How are
Bill.
you, sir?
You were talking about homelessness, and I thought I'd call in and volunteer the fact that I have been technically legally homeless since the mid-'80s. And that's because I, since the mid-'80s, have lived in a van. I've always had the van paid for before I moved into it. I've never had any debt since then that I had to worry about paying off. And I've always been a manic saver. I don't know where that came from. My father and my stepmother both died with second, third mortgages on their townhouse in Denver. I don't know how I managed to avoid being in debt. I obviously ignored the status quo, is what I did. But the thing is that the federal government, in their infinite wisdom, when they wrote Obamacare, exempted people like me from Obamacare. Because I'm legally homeless, I'm legally exempt from Obamacare, particularly the individual mandate. The problem is that the IRS tax preparers don't understand that at all, so they don't know what to do with me. But the bottom line is that all you have to do to avoid being homeless is never spend more than you make.
Yeah.
That's all it takes. My late sister used to say that Americans have a severe case of delayed gratification failure. It's classic. I mean, we want something, we just go out and buy it if we have the credit to buy it. Well, I have never had a regular credit card. I had 3 store credit cards that basically got put away when my ex-wife left me, and I paid them off in about 3 months. That was the last debt I had, was after she was gone, was to basically, and she'd spent the money on late honeymoon stuff that we really didn't need anyway. So, but the people, what I tell people is, okay, it's really simple. When you get your paycheck, pay your bills. After your bills are paid, save as much of what's left as you possibly can, because there's going to come a time when you wish you had if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly where we're going. And frankly, I don't feel sorry for those people. I live out in the desert right now. I don't have a neighbor that I can see out here in the desert. I'm just out in the middle of BLM land in the middle of nowhere. And if I wanted to go back to the part of the BLM land, which is the long-term visitor areas, which is where almost everybody, goes, they go out there and they spend $180 for 6 months to have the privilege to park on their own land out there in the middle of the desert, whereas I'm in non-permit area, so I'm a dispersed camper is what they call me. And I spend a different night. I'm in a different place every night. But the thing is there are people living in motorhomes out there in the middle of the desert. Some of those motorhomes are worth $1 million. Not very many of them, mind you. The majority of them are worth somewhere between $100,000 and $250,000. And the vast majority of those people do not own the motorhome. They're in debt. What happened is when the kids got old enough, they kicked the kids out home. They were empty nesters. They sold the house, and they went out and they bought a motorhome, but they didn't buy a motorhome that they could afford. They bought more motorhome than they could afford, so now they're back in debt again, even though they probably, in many cases, paid for the house that they sold. The Californians did the same thing in Colorado back in the early 70s when they all came out to Colorado. The most popular bumper sticker at that time, I was in high school back in the early 70s, the most popular bumper sticker in Denver at that time was, "Please don't Californicate Colorado." Well, they did, and have thoroughly. And the problem is they sold houses out in California that were, high six-figure houses, many of them, and they took their money and they went to Denver, and instead of buying houses that they could easily afford and saving the rest, they actually went out and bought like mansions where they could find them in Denver, and now they got another new mortgage because they spent everything that they'd made on their house out in California. And I don't know where the sensibility or the intelligence, the logic from any of this comes from, but I figured I'd leave you with a question, and that question is where does this sensibility come from? And beyond that, tell us a little bit, Melody, tell us a little bit more about the ground base, the basis of these foundations you're always talking about, but you never get into the specifics.
The foundations?
Yeah, the basics.
Foundation of economics.
Yeah, exactly. On something, but you never elaborate on the details of that something.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that. We appreciate the call, Bill. Thank you so much. I had some questions about your motorhome. About your van, but we'll let you go. We appreciate the call. We'll do that another day. How's that? Melody?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought you were still talking. I thought you were still. I thought you were still talking to Bill. So
no, I told him we'd ask that another day. I had questions as to how he does this. But anyway, I want to talk about the gold and silver. Let's move on.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you.
Is that what you're doing?
Yes, what I'm doing. You're the gold and silver expert here. By the way, before we get started, I'm going to tell Bill, I'm always warning my children that we're going to sell the house and buy a mobile home and spend a month in each one of their driveways, and they better have sewer hookup or I'm coming in. That's what I tell them. So, okay, go ahead. Gold and silver.
The one thing that I find interesting, I just want to touch it on because we were talking about homelessness, is he had made that decision to live that lifestyle, and I think that's great. He doesn't go in. There's a freedom. He's truly free. And unfortunately, we've been caught up into this world where, whether it be, you can blame the bankers, you can blame it, in government. We are supposed to have real money, real constitutional money backed by gold and silver, and they eliminated that. Gold has been around. And the thing about gold, it's the only true store of value. Gold has no nationality. It crosses all international borders. It's global. It trades 24/7. And gold has no claim of debt against it. And we talked about this program because of the metal, because of the type of metal. You can eliminate all the other ones, and it's still the basis of our true money. And we've gone against that. We've had since 1913 with the creation, and I'm not going to go all the way back in history, but with the creation of since the Federal Reserve. And what's interesting, since the Federal Reserve, since the inception, they have presided over 5, 6 crashes, recessions, depressions. There was 1921, 29, let's count them. There was the 21, 29, the Great Depression from 29 to 39. You had recessions. You had a couple of recessions in the 50s, 60. There was one in 75. And naturally, in 80s and 90s, 2000s, and
the 80s were bad.
Yeah. So, and then you had the Black Monday in 1987. We had a 100% inflation rate that destroyed 90% of the dollar's purchasing power. Yet we still have, mainstream media, government, banks, Federal Reserve, continue to tell us that, things are great and this is the way it should be. They tell us we have no inflation. Even Alan Greenspan was a supporter of the gold standard. He was a critic of the Federal Reserve System. I mean, he published a book about gold and economic freedom. And, you know, he says this is just government's way to steal from the people.
Well, yeah, it is.
There is no way, with the absence of the gold standard, I mean, there's absolutely no way to protect savings through their confiscation of inflation. There's no safe store of value. So these are the fundamentals that we go back and look upon. And when you have a fiat currency that's not backed by it, gold, when we had a backing of gold, it gave government, they had to be accountable. Sure, they went into debt. I mean, they went into debt to cover the World War I and World War, you know, they had to go into debt. But it was limited. They still had to be accountable for what they could spend. And once they took us off the gold standard in 1933, how do you think all these social programs were created? I mean, and you're you know, all the infrastructure spending to help get us, kept us on the gold standard. I don't know where we'd be today. So you hear people saying, well, you know, they needed those programs to get us out of the Great Recession, but here we are today, and because of that, we have a day of reckoning that we have to face. And we have a debt, we have a debt that you can't pay. We're barely servicing the interest on that debt, barely servicing it. So that's why our roads have failed, our airports are declining, our infrastructure is failing, because all the money that comes in, all the money that's created in this country goes to paying off the interest. It can't go back to paying for those simple fundamentals that makes a country strong and dependable. So gold is important. Gold will play a part. Gold is money. It's not going away. The fundamentals for gold is the fiat currency and then the amount of debt that has been created. People will run to gold because it is money. So there's gold and silver. You know, and I don't care what they say about Bitcoin. It's nothing. It's digits. It's a bubble. It's a pump and dump scheme. And people are going in there flocking to it, and which tells me, you know, hey, it's time, if you're in it, to get out. Look at the stock market. How high do you think it's really going to go? Sure, we've seen the Nikkei, that was at 30,000 once, you know, the Hang Seng. I mean, they all had big numbers in the, you know, 20,000s and 30,000s and 40,000s, and, you know, but they all pulled back. But what's it mean? You know, what's it mean? And so I do believe we have a world, they brought down our standard of living. They brought it up other areas around the world, third world countries. They're bringing up their standard of living. They're going to equalize it. And they will collapse the system to finish their agenda. And, I mean, I really voted for Mr. Trump, yes, for the things that he's doing. It's helping. But I really voted for him because I believe he's going to be in, if he's going to be in there for when the system collapses, and he'll be there to help pick up the right pieces, because that's what we need.
I do not believe, as the left likes to call him, an idiot. I do not believe he is an idiot. He would not be where he is in this world if he was an idiot, because he has built an empire. Whether you a lot of people think he had it handed to him, but he didn't have all of it handed to him. He had a good start, but he has made a good living, and more than a good living. But I think he really knows money. He knows economics, and I think he will do the. I don't think he knows.
I don't think he. Those are the. I'm not disagreeing with you. He knows debt.
Okay.
He knows debt.
Well, that's economics. That's knowing economics. He knows the.
But he knows how, he knows how to restructure, which is bankruptcy. It's the new terminology of today's world, restructure. Now he knows bankruptcies, and that's what this country is in. Remember Traficant in the 90s? He was the first one who said that America is bankrupt, and he ended up in jail.
Who was that?
So Trafficant, James Trafficant.
Okay.
And so I think we have a caller, Beth.
We do. We're
doing all right. Warmer than it has been lately, so it's better. Don't have to cut as much wood.
Don't scare it away now.
Don't scare it away. Problem you discussed this morning, and we're looking at actually 6 major economic bubbles right now.
We're having trouble with this phone line.
They're back making subprime loans again. So they're pumping up the real estate market again artificially. You've got the new and used car loans. That's a huge economic bubble there where people have gone into debt. You've got the student loan bubble. You've got the medical health care bubbles where people are in huge amount of debts for medical expenses they can't pay. You've got the credit card bubble, and you've got the stock market bubble. Any one of these blows, it can cause major economic problems, but it looks like they're all going to blow about the same time. And when they do, it's just going to take the entire economy down. So it's a huge mess, and it's been created deliberately by the one world, the New World Order, the ones that run things, because they understand the fundamental law of God, which is the borrower is servant to the lender.
Yeah.
And so that's why they've always created these wars to get our country into debt to them. And then all these other side issues, the cars and the student loans and the medical and everything else, is always the plan and trap people into debt servitude. And there's just no way out of it except just to get out of debt completely.
Yeah, and that's why they encourage it.
Head for the hills, basically.
Live in your van.
Exactly. Find your piece of ground, get out in the woods somewhere.
Yeah, and I say that in jest, but not really in jest. I say that in jest, but not really in jest, because what Bill's saying is we need to simplify. Quit living above our means. Derry used to have a little saying, and I can't remember the whole entire thing, but it was, don't let your output exceed your input, and that's what America has done. That's what we're doing as a nation, and that's what they encourage everyone to do as individuals. And just like Neil said, it's because of it's just because that's what they encourage, and then they own us.
Right.
Or so they think.
Exactly. Now, my favorite saying is, don't let your alligator mouth overload your hummingbird rear end. And that's what people have done. They've just got alligator mouths, and they're just ruining themselves.
We got it,
yeah. I was going to say hummingbirds can move fast, but,
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate the call, Neil. Appreciate your input. I hadn't heard that one before. That's a new
No, I haven't either.
Oh, gracious. I'd say that's a Missouri one, but I don't know. I'm from Missouri. I've never heard that.
He'll have to tell us the next time he calls. But,
yeah, he'll have to.
But, going back to the initial of his call, I mean, he's absolutely correct. We have all these bubbles, and they're all ready to break. And, we don't know the date and time. I mean, there's all kinds of predictions out there, but we're certainly closer and closer. And, it's, I talk to clients who says they couldn't realize that they didn't think this system could last through the 80s or 90s, and here we are closing in on 2020. They have extreme power and the ability to create the things needed in order to keep it going. But eventually, the house of cards will collapse on itself, whether it's by design or whether it's by structure, and it does it on its own. But again, we all know a crisis is not meant to be wasted. So, and they can, but it comes down to you and me. It comes down to us as being able to protect ourselves and protect our families. We know it's coming, whether it's today, tomorrow, next year, 2 years, 2020. We don't know. But I do think we're closer. As long as we have a fiat currency, you're losing your purchasing power through inflation. Inflation is there. It's not going to go away. It can't be adjusted to the degree that they think or they tell us that it can be. It's there. And Alan Greenspan said, it isn't what we do at the Federal Reserve that truly impacts, and well, I mean, it was before the Great Recession, but he says it's not what we do at the Federal Reserve that makes this huge monetary changes in our economy. It's what we say. That's the true impact, and it's the confidence. It's the illusion that they've created. You know, if you tell somebody long enough there's no inflation, they're going to believe it. They think it's because things are running smoothly and things are great, that prices are rising because there's a huge demand. Sure, we see that in some areas, but for the most part, and always, we'll lose through inflation.
And we're deceived by this stock market, the uptick in the stock market, because a lot of us don't understand how that really works and what that really is, and we understand the 401ks go up and down and all that good stuff, but you know, it's a deceit. It's something that we think that means everything's going great, but we know that it's not. I mean, it's improving slowly, but it's not getting great. We have Joe in Arkansas on the line. Joe, how are you today?
Oh, I'm about 52% all right today, and how are you all?
I'm doing okay.
All right. I wanted to put in my 2 cents on this business of the economy that you're talking about today. And to my mind, it looks to me like the biggest obstacle to really getting the economy better is that pretty much everybody that talks about economics is so in love with their ability to understand complex and somewhat obscure economic matters, and that's what they want to talk about, that there is really nobody, hardly anybody, talking any simple common sense about why we don't have such a good economy and how we could have a much better economy. And here's what I see as the simple common sense of this matter. And that's this. Okay, most of the economy, the biggest part of the economy, is the daily buying and selling of the common, everyday, ordinary goods that pretty much everybody buys, you know, very frequently, sometimes almost every day, like food. Okay, like food. That's something that everybody has to have every day. Pretty much everybody buys food every day. That's one big item. Now, we're buying most of our food, as I understand it now, from foreign countries. So the money we spend on food, you know, for the most part, apparently goes out of the country now. Now, another item pretty much everybody buys, you know, very frequently is clothing, shoes and hats and things like that. Clothes to clothes and jackets,
and everything.
Shirts and pants,
you can't buy women's heels made in the USA. Just throwing that out there. I don't know if you've tried to do that or not, Joe. We're headed into a break. I hate to cut you off. You can hang on and talk to us some more, Joe. It's very interesting. I have a little thing on the foreign food. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, 717-300-1218. Melody, Beth Ann, and Joe will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we have returned. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann, and we have Joe on the line. And Joe, you'd mentioned the amount of foreign food, everything we buy in the grocery store just about is coming from another country. Well, for those who live in an area where you can do this, I suggest you find a local farmer. And I suggest that you buy from your local farmer, your meat particularly, and also when it's in season, you can also get, the truck patches, you can also get local. And most grocery stores, even Walmart these days, they're buying locally and have some of the local produce there. And I would say concentrate on that. I know you can't get your bananas locally, but you're going to have to concentrate on that and see what you can do, and you'll have to plan out what's in season and what's not in season, but a cow or a pig or sheep or whatever it is, chickens, those are in season all the time. So you can get that and find a local butcher and or do it yourself if you want to do that. A lot of people are raising rabbits in the backyard, which are really good meat. They're good meat. I had domestic rabbit. I don't care for wild rabbit so much, but domestic rabbit is good meat. And so I know, Joe, I know that you tend to lean on the vegetarian side, and vegetables and fruits and stuff, they're not cheap when you're getting them from overseas.
No, actually not. I do not like people accusing me of being a vegan or vegetarian. I am a raw fooder.
Okay.
I don't care whether the food comes from animals or vegetables, but what I've found is that you're much healthier if you eat it raw. So please do not accuse me of being a vegetarian or vegan. I hate those things.
Okay, all right.
But
I apologize. He's a raw food. Raw foods.
Okay. But I'd like to continue with the list a little bit. Americans buy a lot of tools. Most of the tools used to be made in the USA. Now pretty much when you go to the hardware store to buy tools, they're all made in Mexico and sometimes China and sometimes other countries, but mostly Mexico and China. Electronics. Modern life seems to be absolutely dependent on computers and smartphones and other electronic gizzards that Americans buy a lot, and they're all made in foreign countries, mostly China. So every time we buy those things, the money goes out of the country. Another thing is items of transportation. Everybody has a bicycle or a motorcycle or a car or some article of transportation, generally several of them. And pretty much the great majority of those, I think, now are made in foreign countries also. Mm-hmm. So every time we buy those, the money goes out of the country. And so instead of circulating earned money inside this country, which would really give us a good economy if we were buying and selling from each other, instead we have to keep borrowing more and more and more and more and more so that we can have something of an economy so that we can keep on buying stuff from overseas and sending our money out of the country.
Cheap stuff.
What? Yeah.
Buy cheap stuff from overseas.
And so personally, I think this is even more important than what the money is, because even if we had gold and silver money, there's pretty much someone somewhere in the world that can always make pretty much everything cheaper than we can. So if we were to, even if we had gold and silver money, if we were buying most of our stuff from foreign countries and sending the money out of the country instead of circulating it in this country, we'd still have a lousy economy. So to my mind, that's the simple common sense of why we don't have a particularly good economy. And I think what we need to get it better is for lots and lots and lots of people to recognize this and keep on talking it up and, leaning on the politicians to enact policies that'll allow us to be, personally, I think it would be a good target to be about 80% independent and self-sufficient in all the common essential items of everyday life. And if we did that, we had that kind of policy, and it's completely constitutional to do that, because the Constitution says Congress has complete authority to regulate and tax foreign trade, then that would give us a really good economy. And I think we used to do that, and I think that's why we had a really good economy in former times. So that's my 2 cents on this economics business.
I think it's good. I agree. We have to buy with you. If it's going outside the country, then instead of circulating inside the country, that's definitely going to hurt the economy.
And to keep up the economy, we have to borrow money so that we still have some money to send it to foreign countries.
I mean, you're absolutely correct. But what is the reality? And hey, I'm all for it, don't get me wrong, but I also look at the reality of things. When you look at who controls it, when you look at the bankers, Washington or congressmen, really? You think they would benefit from changing the multinational corporations? They talk about repatriating the money back into this country from overseas. Supposedly these tax cuts are supposed to help. I mean, that kind of sounds like, well, maybe it's the first step. But we all know when they repatriated money back during the Bush's term, and what do? They go back in, they pay dividends and reinvest into their own shares, just to keep the shareholders happy. I think we've gotten to the point, can we really turn it around until it actually collapses? I think are we beyond the point to where we can make changes? We can make some changes, but are those changes, or are they going to be enough? And I don't think they will be. I don't think they can, because it's just like anything else. You can make changes, but there's still an after effect that isn't going to be pleasant. I don't think we get to this point where we're at and can make changes and not have difficult times to still face. I mean, a day of reckoning is coming. Mm-hmm. Let that day of reckoning happen so we can do the things to make this better again. Our economy better and make self-sustaining and so forth. But are we too globalized anymore to do that? I don't know the answer to that.
Mm. Well, I hope not. I hope being global isn't necessarily bad. Some of the companies
but if it's done properly.
What I'm saying is some of the companies now that claim to be made in the USA, well, they may put things together in the USA, but all the parts come from somewhere else, and therefore they can still say it's made in the USA, but yet that money has still come from, or still goes out to foreign countries. And it's not that we don't want anything, it's just that we need to get our own selves boosted up here a little bit to for our own economy. So anyway,
and when we search for truth isn't always pleasant. And I'd like to think there's pie in the sky that we can elect the proper politicians in Congress and have them change around that they would actually control. Yeah, I can look at that and say, yeah, that's what we should do. That's what we should be doing. But let's look at the truth. Let's look at the reality. And how does that? Unless I am just so cynical, unless I am just so I don't see a way of turning this around until we face some sort of major collapse to where once we hit rock bottom, the pieces can be picked up and then we can go forward. I don't think we can go forward anymore to the point of what we believe our country should be. And then you have to look at our youth. I'm over 60. I don't know how old Joe is. I think he told us, but, how old are you? We're all over 60, and we have the baby boomer population. We do view things differently than the new people coming in. So once we're gone, we're talking about this now just to let people understand what's going on so they know the truth, so that maybe the truth can trickle down. That's what we need to have. We need to have the truth to trickle down. And I'm not so sure that can happen.
We haven't seen much of the truth lately, have we?
No. And so you look at our youth, You look at the what they're adjusting to, what they're accepting. My gosh, the majority of our youth wanted Bernie Sanders to be elected, and he's a self-proclaimed socialist. They don't have an idea, a clue what's going on. Now, as they age, once they become, once they get, life experiences, then maybe they'll change, and accept different ideas. But will it be too late? So you can create all kinds of scenarios in the way it should be, what I'd like to see. But the truth? What's the truth?
Well, they don't want us to know the
prepare.
truth, and it's not because we can't handle the truth. It's because they know what we're going to do when we find out the truth.
True.
Which is why they want to take away the Second Amendment and a few other
Very
things.
much so. Very much so.
They know they're going to anger people when we know the truth, and people are figuring it out. Melody, it was good to have you back, girl.
Well, it was good to be back. And remember, folks, you are free to protect yourself, not only, but also financially. So get and prepare by buying gold and silver. Give us a call at 1-800-375-4188.
I'm going to repeat that, 1-800-375-4188. You all have a great day, and we'll see you back tomorrow.
Thank you, Beth. Bye-bye.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.